I have slides because Myung told me I'm supposed to do slides, but apparently I'm the only one with them. Okay. So it's a little bit cheesy, but Myung told me to speak about anti-discrimination legislations. So probably my proposal here to all of you is to plant this thought, put this question in your heads, that perhaps there needs to be a shift away from talk about marriage equality. That there should be a much stronger focus on anti-discrimination legislations. And I think we've heard a couple of sort of bubbling voices in the community about this, and we should start amplifying them. This really shishi, cute diagram that was manufactured by Microsoft PowerPoint, just to show where anti-discrimination legislation should be mainstreamed into possibly any form of ministries that we can think of. But I just want to highlight one thing, which is prisons. And this is where my sort of experience working with the transgender sex worker community comes in. So I see a lot of people who go into jail. I see a lot of people who go into detention. And the level of discrimination based on somebody's gender identity and expression is something that, as a cisgender person, you won't even dare to think about. We, as Project X, have recorded cases of sexual harassment, police officers sexually harassing transgender people who are in prison, who are in detention. We have newspaper reports like what Trisha was saying, where they put out on newspaper their male names when it should be their female names, use the wrong gender pronouns, tell the whole world that they are transgender without their consent to do so. And I recently just concluded, I'm not going to wax too much. I recently just concluded a case of a transgender sex worker who was discriminated against by a police officer. She was sexually harassed. She made a police report, but she made a false report to say that the guy, apart from sexually harassing her, stole $50 from her. She confessed to this within 24 hours. She told the police, sorry, I exaggerated what happened. The police charged her for false information. She was just finished the case, $3,000 fine. The person who sexually harassed her walked free. Nothing, no follow-up at all from the police officers. So if this is not discrimination, I don't know what is. So I just wanted to highlight this, because I think the rest is pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so this next slide, which is less fancy. I just want to highlight, I think Matt, you mentioned intersectionality just now, and I think it's very important that we really understand what this concept is. And I think trans sex workers really show what intersecting discrimination really means. That means that they get discriminated against not just because of their gender identity and expression, but also because of the job that they choose, which is sex work, in this case that I'm working with. Just to highlight certain issues that the women that we work with face, we talk about physical, verbal, emotional, financial violence. I shall not go too much into that. If you're interested, I'll be more than happy to sort of describe the various forms of violence that we see. I mean, we all think that Singapore is a place where you don't see bloody violence. It's one of the reasons why the international sphere thinks that Singapore is some kind of haven, that our human rights situation is not that bad. It's because we don't have, it seems like we don't have bloody violence. We don't beat people up until their faces break open, etc. But when you work with this community, which is both discriminated against and illegal, you see violence that really you don't see anywhere else. I don't know how else to put it. I just want to talk about perhaps another form of discrimination against transgender sex workers, which is people know that there are such things as licensed models in Singapore, right? If you don't, it means that in the Women's Charter, it is very explicit, brothels are illegal. Pimping is illegal. But there are such things as licensed brothels, which means they are immune from all forms of police raids, okay? Transgender people who are pre-operative are not allowed to be working for such a brothel. That's discrimination. Not just in the workplace, it seems like if we believe that sex work is work, which is what Project X believes in, it's the same. Transgender people face discrimination in the workplace and in other industries, as well as in the sex industry. And I think this is something that we should be fighting for. I know a lot of people, a lot of people, when they ask me about trans sex workers, they like to ask me why they are in this trade. Well, this is my least favorite question to answer. I thought I'd just throw in some information. When we talk about discrimination, it's not one-off. We talk about discrimination that is basically throughout your life. And for many, and not all, for some transgender sex workers, it starts when they're very young. It starts, the first form of discrimination, from their families. They get kicked out, or they just get estranged from their families. They don't communicate with them, they leave the house, don't come home, sleep on the streets, etc. Then we talk about discrimination in schools. When you sort of lose the social support that a lot of people get from families, you also sort of lose the kind of will, I guess, to be in schools. A lot of them drop out without even an O-level certificate or N-level certificate. And we're talking about a meritocratic society like Singapore. Without such papers made from trees, you are nothing in this society. It's hard for you to get anywhere. And then we talk, this is all compounded. And I'd just like to put this thought out to say that actually the sex industry provides opportunities for transgender people that no other industry is able to provide. You're able to be in a community of transgender sex workers. There are many, many transgender sex workers in Singapore. Singaporeans and Malaysians are the key populations I work with because of language barriers. There's a bunch of them, and what better? They take care of each other. There's a system of kinship that you see in these communities, trans sex workers. They take care of each other, they tell you what to do when you go for your sex reassignment surgeries, they teach you the skills you need to be on the streets, they teach you where to find housing, where to find employment if you wanted to move. It's a community. It is also an opportunity for them to express their gender where no other industry allows. It allows them to put on makeup, allows them to put on clothes that they like, allows them to talk to men without being shunned or having to face sort of violence of all forms. Yes, okay, so I can speak forever. You can speak to me more later. But I just want to end up with a last proposal, which is that there is a desperate need for decriminalization of sex work. I know this is an extremely controversial thing to say in Singapore, but it is the only way, it's the proven way to reduce violence within the industry. It gives people a place to work safely. It gives people access to justice. When they go to the police, they won't be told, you're illegal, get the hell out of here, you don't deserve that justice. When they go to social services, they will not have to explain, oh wait, hang on, why are you unemployed for 15 years? And it gives them a legitimate place to work. They don't have to be on the streets. Okay, I'm going to end there. Thank you.